So, to those of you who do not already know, I don't drink. I never drink. I've recently, over the last like year, started adding like a tablespoon of Kahlua to my hot chocolate because it improves the flavor, but I don't think that really counts as drinking. Anyway, you would think that being somebody who doesn't drink, I would be a wonderful designated driver. And in some ways, you're right. I'm always sober. I'm always good to drive. The downside of that is I'm absolutely horrible at babysitting drunk people. Like beyond sucking at babysitting drunk people. So you would think I would be a good designated driver up until you get to the point that I have no skill whatsoever when it comes to dealing with the drunk people who are going to be riding inside of my car. By the way, just a quick aside, I have a cold. I'm really sorry. I keep getting sick. My eldest is going to school for the first time in her life, and she keeps just bringing home different colds and flus, and everybody in the house has been sick, like on a rotating calendar, like just constant. Everyone keeps getting sick. Supposedly it'll go away eventually. Like, it's really at its worst the first year, apparently, from what I've heard from other parents. In the meantime, I sound like this, and it's awful, and I do apologize. But anyway, I'm horrible at babysitting drunk people, so I wanted to tell you guys about that. My first experience, well, not exactly my first. There were a few other bad experiences, but we'll just start with the fun ones. My first fun-ish experience babysitting a drunk person was my ex-girlfriend, she was just so full of drama. It was kind of hard not to, include her in these stories. She asked me to babysit, or not babysit. She asked me to give her a ride home one night because she didn't have a car. Now, she was always asking me for things. First of all, we had broken up, but she at one point asked me to pay her phone bill, which, I did because it wasn't that expensive, and I don't know, I didn't see a reason why not to until she started asking me for all sorts of other things. And at some point it was like, okay, I am not an ATM, but yeah. Before that point, she asked me to pay her phone bill. She asked me to give her a ride a lot of times. The rides I actually understood because she didn't have a car and she did genuinely need a ride. So I'm sure she genuinely needed to pay her phone bill too. It's just, well, whatever. But she asked me for a ride home from work. I wasn't working that night, so I said, yes, sure, I'll give you a ride. 1 o'clock comes around. I went to the club to pick her up. Everybody was either leaving or had gone already, so I arrived there. Place was pretty much dead. There were a few stragglers getting their way out the door, and she was nowhere in sight. So I go into the club, and there she is sitting by the stage in some guy's lap. Whatever. I genuinely could not care less. But it is time to go, and I'm tired, and at the time I had bronchitis. Kind of funny, like this is the perfect time to be telling this story because that's what I sounded like. I had bronchitis. I used to get sick a lot when I first started dancing because I was still recovering from everything that had happened to me physically as a child. So I used to get sick a lot. And then after I'd been dancing for, I'd say about 2 years, I stopped getting sick. And I really didn't get sick again for like a long time. And now I've got a kid in preschool, and so now I get sick all the time. But up until that point, I had a wonderfully functional immune system. It was amazing. I loved it. But at that point, I had bronchitis, and so I really didn't want to be hanging around in the strip club watching her flirt with this dude, which drunk people flirting really isn't that pretty to look at to begin with. So she's sitting in his lap and she's mumbling at him, and I don't know if anything she actually said was coherent. And I don't know if he had ever said anything to her. I think he was just running his hand up and down her back and, basically being happy that there was a half-naked girl in his lap, which I can't entirely blame him, but at the same time, I wanted to go home, and it was after closing time, and he had no business being there, and neither did she. So I couldn't get her to leave. I kept asking her to leave. It's like, come on, it's time to go. We need to go. I want to go home. I'm sick. I want to go home. Can we please go home? And, she ignored me. I don't know why she ignored me. Maybe she was trying to make me jealous because she was kind of that kind of person. except I didn't care. So mostly I was just really annoyed that I was sitting around waiting for her. And if I was a smarter person, or if I was me as I am, you know, now that I'm older and more experienced and almost, oh God, 10 years older, more than 10 years older. Ooh, that stings. Anyway, more than 10 years older, I would probably just look at her and say, look, I am driving out of here in 3 minutes. Whether you're in the car or not, you know that now, so I am going to go and get into my car, and I'm going to wait for exactly 3 minutes. And when 3 minutes has passed, I am going to start that car, and I am going to drive away. And if you're in the car, I'll give you a ride home. And if you're not in the car, you're going to have to find a different way to get home. And either way, it's not my problem. Now, that's how you should probably handle a situation like that. But instead, I'm sitting there like the doormat that I was back in those days, trying to get this girl to please just get into my car so we can go home, so that I can drive you home, so that I can go home, so that I can get some sleep, so that maybe I can feel better. Finally, the bartender comes out, tells this girl, look, I don't care who you leave with, but you can't stay here. It is past closing. Everybody else is gone, and we have to close up the bar, so you have to leave. Well, then she crawls off the guy's lap and, you know, kind of begrudgingly comes out with me to the parking lot. We get into the car, and immediately she lights up a cigarette. I'm like, could you maybe not smoke that in here? I kind of have bronchitis. I kind of don't feel so good, and I kind of don't want to be breathing cigarette smoke in a tiny, enclosed, cramped little car. Like, it was below freezing outside. I didn't want to roll down a window. Could you maybe not be doing that in here? She's like, I can't even remember. I just think she just she said something at me, like she was drunk, who knows? But anyway, she refused to put out the cigarette, so I had to drive her all the way across town to her house while she was smoking the cigarette, which was not exactly my idea of a fun time, but oh well. This is why I don't like babysitting drunks. But anyway, we got there. I parked the car in front of her place, and she didn't want to get out of the car. She didn't want to leave. She was like, I want you to kiss me. I was like, that is absolutely not going to happen right now. She's like, well, I'm not going to leave until you kiss me. So I got out of the car. She got out of the car. I closed the doors. I locked the doors because I didn't want her getting back into the car. And I told her, you have to go into your home. You have to go back to your apartment. And she just refused. She did not want to leave until I had kissed her. I don't think that she liked me all that much. I think she just wanted to like prove a point to herself that she was sexy and attractive to just everybody and so damn irresistible or something like that. Women are weird like that, especially when they're drunk. Have you ever noticed that women like they suddenly, like, once they get drunk, not all women, but some women, like, once they get drunk, like, they have to prove that they're sexy to the entire world, and so they start really acting out, and it just kind of makes them look stupid. But I haven't been drunk that much, so I wouldn't know. So anyway, I didn't want to kiss her. That just was not going to be the shit cherry on top of my shit sundae that night. And so instead, I went into her house, walked through her house in the dark, went to her bedroom because I'd been there, and woke up her boyfriend, who was fresh back home from Iraq. Probably not the best person that you should be waking up in the middle of the night if you're a total stranger, but I didn't know what else to do, and I was not going to kiss that girl. So I woke him up, and I very politely told him, your girlfriend is outside in the parking lot, and she refuses to come inside, and that's your problem now, so I'm gonna go home. Bye. And I turned around and I walked out, and he followed me out because he had to go get her, and I'm pretty sure he was quite familiar with her shenanigans by that point. And I guess she was dating him before she started dating me, but then she started dating me, but then she broke up with me, or actually I broke up with her, and then she started dating this other guy and broke up with him, and then he came back from Iraq, and I don't know whether he even knew that she had dated any of these other people. I don't even know if he ever even suspected that she was wiggling around in that one guy's lap. I don't know what their relationship was like, and I don't care. As long as I'm not involved, that's good. Anyway, so I walk back to my car, I unlock the door, I climb in, I'm turning the car on and getting ready to drive away, and I see him arguing with her and her like stomping her foot and getting all indignant. And it wasn't my problem, and that was fantastic. Another story about babysitting a drunk person that I have involves a young military guy who he came into the strip club one night with a bunch of other military guys. I was always kind of wary of the military guys in my hometown because they sort of treated local girls like crap. Like, not like crap. They weren't mean to us and they weren't particularly rude to us exactly. They just treated us like we were, you know, prostitutes. Free sex, basically. You know, I can have sex with this random small town girl and then I can turn around and walk away and it's not like anyone's ever going to know about it. So why shouldn't I do it, you know? Not all of them were like that, but there were enough of them, especially in the strip clubs, where it was like, I don't entirely trust you yet. I met some really good guys from the military in that town. Like, I made really good friends with one for a long time. We were friends. He was the only friend I had who came to my wedding, because I had other friends who came, but they were like mutual friends that my husband and I had befriended together. Nobody that I knew from before I met my husband, except this guy. I didn't have a lot of friends. Like, I was not the kind of person who had friends. But anyway, this guy was a military guy. I got to know him. I started talking with him. He seemed nice enough. He took me out to breakfast at Denny's, which was pleasant. And so, you know, we started this kind of routine of every so often we'd call each other up. Hey, I'm bored. Do you want to go out for breakfast? Yeah, sure. And we'd go out and we'd have breakfast at Denny's and we'd sit around, we talk, and it was not so bad, you know? He wasn't the most interesting person I'd met, but he wasn't boring me to tears, which was nice. And so we got along okay. You know, things were good. At some point, we had this one really weird conversation where he asked me, because he knew about work, and I would talk about work sometimes because I love my job. And so he asked me one time, well, what does a prostitute go for? And I was like, well, you know, that varies. I've heard different things from different people. It seems like 500 is the average, but that changes, like it varies greatly. So some girls are going for 250 and some girls are like selling, I don't even know what, for $1,000. I mean, it's illegal, and so I don't do it, and I don't know that much about it, but this is what I've heard. It's usually, I guess, around 500, which, by the way, varies from state to state. So yeah, like, don't go assuming those are good numbers to go by, because they're not. But anyway, that's what I told him, because that's what I'd been told by other people who knew a hell of a lot more about it than I did, which was, you know, I knew nothing. So he looks at me and he's like, well, you know, I've spent about $500 on your food, like on dinner with you. So, you know, technically you owe me something, wink, wink. And I'm like, okay, that pretty much guarantees that we are never going to have sex. Wonderful. All right, there you go. Congratulations, sir. I will never bang you. That's never going to happen. I was a little put off by that idea. Like, you are not entitled to things with me, but all right, you can entertain yourself with that idea. I'm just gonna go somewhere else while you do, and probably not come back. And I didn't hear from for a while after that. I think that was like the last conversation we had for a while. And then one night out of the blue, it was the night I was going to be heading to another city on the other end of the country, actually. I was going to get onto a Greyhound bus, and I was going to travel across the country and go dancing in this strange city that I don't think I had ever been to that city at that point. I don't think I'd ever traveled there. I had never traveled there before, no. That was my first time going, and I had packed up all my stuff. I was really excited, but I was kind of nervous because I'd never done this before, or at least not with this city. Not traveling in this direction either. And I had a few things that I had left to put away, like, you know, I wanted to keep my toothbrush out so I could brush my teeth in the morning, but I was pretty well put together. I was ready to go. I was trying to get some good sleep because I didn't know what to expect the next morning, and so I wanted to be well rested, and I get this call at like 1 o'clock in the morning that wakes me up. And I answer the phone, and it's this guy who is a friend of the guy I know. Like, he's a friend of Mr. $500 Dinners. And he's like, hey, he's drunk and he needs a ride home. And I was like, that's not my problem. It's 1 a.m. in the morning and I have to be somewhere in the morning. Like, I have to be somewhere, so I can't give him a ride. They're like, yeah, we don't know anybody else to call, because they were military, so they didn't know anyone else to call. And we're both too tipsy to be driving right now, so we can't drive him back, and he needs a ride home. Like, he needs a ride home. And I was like, okay, fine, but I need sleep, and I do not want to drive all the way over to this stupid, like, military base, way far away from where I live, by the way, and, you know, then have to drive all the way back and have to deal with a bunch of drama. I do not like this. I am not happy about this. I have to be up in the morning, and I really need my sleep. But I will give him a ride home because you're asking me and you don't seem to have any other options. So I drove out to the club. He was drunk. He was really drunk. I got him over to my car. I got him into my car. I started driving in the direction of the military base. The one nice thing he did was he did buy me a tank of gas, because my tank was just about empty, and it was like, it was a considerable drive, and so it was like he bought me a tank of gas. It was very nice of him. And then he told me we should turn around and go straight to my apartment, and I was like, that is not going to happen. He's like, oh, come on, we can go to your apartment. I was like, I have to be somewhere in the morning, and also you're not allowed to stay in my apartment at night. No. Well, the whole drive all the way to the military base, he's like, we should go to your apartment. Turn around so we can go to your apartment. We need to go to your apartment. Let's go to your apartment. No. No, no, no. We get to the military base. I am not military personnel. I am not allowed inside of there. He is military personnel. He has to go through the gate. After that, he's on his own. That's not my problem. So I park outside the military, like they got a little parking lot in front of the military base, and I told him, okay, that's it. That's as far as I can go. The rest is up to you. Walk to your like dorm or apartment or whatever you call it. You know, that's on you. Well, he didn't want to get out of the car. He refused to get out of the car. He said, I'm not leaving. You need to turn back and go to your apartment. Take me there. I was like, that's not happening. You need to get out. We argued about it a little bit. I decided to try and get out of my car. So I opened the door and I got out of the car, and he opened his door and got out of the car. Wonderful. So anyway, I had to get him away from the car, and so I started walking toward the gate, and he starts following me toward the gate. I'm walking toward the gate, walking toward the gate. I had his car keys, and so when I got far enough away from my car and close enough to the gate, I took his car keys and I threw them down on the ground really, really hard, and I turned around and I bolted from my car as fast as I could go. He runs past me toward his keys, grabs his keys, turns around, and then starts following me. I got to my car. I opened up the door in a hurry. I dove in. I slammed the door. I hit the auto lock. That's when I locked all the doors. So I was in the car. He was outside of the car. Wonderful. Good. Awesome. I start up my car in a hurry, and I'm starting to back it out as kind of jerkily, because I'm trying not to hit him with the car, because he's circling around outside of it trying to get back in. And that's when the cops show up. And so they're, you know, flashing their lights at us, and I open the door, I get out of the car. I'm like, at that point, it was just like, what do you want from me? What do you want from me? Like, I'm so over this night. Like, I'm supposed to be in bed. I have to be somewhere in the morning. So they come out, and, you know, they're asking, well, have you had anything to drink? I was like, no. And they're like, really? How much have you had to drink? And I was like, at that point, I looked at the cop and I lost my temper. I was like, I haven't had anything to drink. I have to be somewhere in the morning. I'm giving this guy a ride, and I don't want to be doing that. I want to be back at home in bed. So if you want to give me a breathalyzer, give me a breathalyzer. If you want to take a blood sample, take a blood sample, but you let me go back home so I can get some sleep. And at that point, she was like, "You can go, ma'am." I was like, "Thank you." So, so that's what I did. I left him in the care of the military base police or whoever they were. I went home. I crawled into bed. I am really, really bad at babysitting drunk people. Like, I'm not good at that. There are some things I'm good at. This is not one of them. So I go back home. I crawl into bed. It's warm. I just fall fast asleep. It is so awesome. Sleep is good. I love sleep. Really, really early in the morning, like I don't even know what hour of the morning, I get a phone call. I'm like, I am not answering that damn phone. So I turn off the phone. The phone rings again. I turn it off again. The phone rings again. I turn it off again. The phone rings again. I answer the phone. What do you want from me? It's that guy. He's like, "Where'd you put my car keys?" I don't have your car keys. Leave me alone. You have your car keys. I hang up the phone. He calls me back. He's like, "Where did you put my car keys?" I'm like, "I do not have your car keys, and I don't know why you're asking me. You had them last time I saw them, so it's your problem, not mine. I need to be somewhere in the morning, so you need to let me get my sleep." I hang up again. He calls back again. He's like, "You need to tell me what you did with my car keys." I hang up on him again. No calls back. I finally fall asleep. I start drifting off. It's like, oh, thank God. This has been a nightmare. I swear I'm never going to babysit another drunk person again because clearly this is not a skill set of mine. I think about 30 minutes later, there was a knock on the door. I was like, "You gotta be kidding me." I'm ignoring it. The knocking gets louder. The knocking gets louder. At this point, I'm clearly not going to be able to get any kind of sleep at all. So I get out of my bed. I walked over to the door. I opened it up. I opened it up, and I looked at him, and he's there, and he's got one of his military buddies with him, and I'm like, "You need to leave me alone." He's like, "What did you do with my keys?" I'm like, "I don't have your keys. I don't know where your keys are. It's not my problem. You go figure out what you did with your keys. I don't have them." And he shoved his way into my apartment, at which point I started screeching at the top of my lungs, like just screaming as loud as I could. And the only thing I could really think of at the time was that I had this really nice looking, like very large chef's knife in the kitchen. And I don't care how much military training that guy had, I was going to stab him at least once. And because I clearly looked like I had lost my sanity, his friend kind of grabbed him by the arm and said, "Hey, we can come back later. Come on, man, let's go." So they leave. Finally, I close the door. I lock it securely. I try to get some sleep. I really didn't get much sleep. I got up. I got on the bus going to this other side of the country, to this strange city that I've never been in before. I'm sitting in the bus. And about noonish, I get a phone call from him or a text or something, and it was a text. "I found my keys. They fell behind my bureau in my room. Sorry." I was like, "Okay." I didn't say anything. He's like, "You're not mad at me, are you?" I was like, "Oh no, I'm not mad at you at all." Never talked to him again. Luckily, I think he was ashamed enough of himself or of the way he acted, or at least maybe his friends kind of clued him into the fact that he'd been enough of an ass that he didn't try to contact me again. So that was good. But this is why, no matter how sober I am, you probably should find someone else to give you a ride. So there you go. That's my lovely and disastrous stories about taking care of drunk people. And that's why I generally do not take care of drunk people anymore, ever, if I can help it at all. I'll talk to you guys later.